Listen, I'm not an expert on this case. I'm not a green card expert either. So I'm just going to go very quickly to the simple example of you're a guest here. All right.
Benny Johnson went on Piers Morgan Uncensored and took on Ana Kasparian in a debate that got pretty heated. I think they both made okay points, and then Benny Johnson just absolutely annihilated Ana Kasparian with a particular point that he made, and things, of course, took off into a very heated debate here live on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Let's get into this clip where Benny Johnson and Ana Kasparian debate, and in my opinion, Benny Johnson absolutely destroys Ana Kasparian in this debate. Let's check it out.
Not democracy. You can't exile political dissidents, not in the United States.
Well, I mean, our government will certainly try to do that as long as the government of Israel demands it. And our government, whether you're talking about Democrats or Republicans, is completely controlled by the Israeli government, and they're going to do the Israeli government's bidding. That's what this is really about. That's all it is. So protesters who are legal residents, permanent residents who have green cards will be deported simply for exercising their freedom of speech and criticizing how the Israeli government is prosecuting this war in Gaza, slaughtering tens of thousands of innocent women, children, elderly people, civilians. They're going to continue the slaughter. They don't want any backlash from anyone in the United States about it, including American citizens, including permanent residents. And remember, Miriam Adelson and the Adelson family overall gave Donald Trump hundreds of millions of dollars to not do what's right for the United States, but to do what's right for Israel. So Donald Trump is going to do that. He's transactional. Money talks for him, and he doesn't care. He'll go ahead and revoke green cards and deport valedictorians, students who have been in this country since they were 7 years old, were valedictorians in high school. But God forbid they ever ding or criticize the Israeli government, because that's when they'll become a target.
What if they actively support? What if they actively support Hamas?
Look, I despise Hamas, and it disgusts me that anyone would say anything positive about Hamas. But our freedom of speech indicates that we are allowed to even be supportive of the KKK, be supportive of Nazis, be supportive of terrorist
But that
groups.
applies to American naturalized citizens. If you've come in on a green card, right? If you say on your green card you support a organization that is a prescribed terror group in the United States, you don't get your green card. That is the argument Marco Rubio made. I thought it was quite a good one. I mean, I haven't got a green card, but I have a visa, and they're very stringent about all these kind of things, right? If you aligned
Visas
yourself
and green cards
with a terror group,
you know that.
If you aligned yourself with a terror group, you wouldn't get in. So why should you stay in?
Well,
is my
visa
point.
and a green card is hold on, Piers, hold on. Visa and green card is different, as you know.
Course, yeah.
Someone who's a permanent legal resident is, it's like one tiny step lower than a naturalized citizen. And the point is, whatever allegation the Trump administration is making against these green card holders, it needs to be adjudicated by a judge. Again, it goes back to the issue of due process. If you guys are comfortable with an executive branch official, simply one person unilaterally deciding without any due process that someone has done something wrong and now their green card should be revoked, I think that's setting a really, really bad and dangerous precedent. Again, that concentrates too much power among a very small group of people, and I think people deserve due process. Have a judge weigh in and determine whether or not this person is actually a threat to the United States or our national security, and then make that decision. But
Benny,
for some reason, they don't want to do that.
All right, Benny, Trump has banned the AP from the White House for refusing.
I don't completely disagree with what she said at all, but I just don't think Donald Trump is the sellout that these people make him out to be. I wish he didn't cater to that country that they were talking about so much that I can't even say the name of the country without getting flagged. But that's just what we have to do. So it's the rules of the world that we live in. I wish he didn't cater to them as much, but I don't think he's as big of a sellout as even someone like Joe Biden or someone like that. I think Joe Biden and basically any other politician out there is much more of a sellout than Donald Trump is. There's not really much that more money could do for Donald Trump. There's not a singular thing in the world that Donald Trump, if he wanted to do it, couldn't do because of money. That's not a thing. He can't be bought. He has all the money that he could possibly need. Maybe he wants more. Maybe he just wants to see the imaginary points on his on the scoreboard of his bank account go up. But other than that, what could he possibly need more money for? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would he sell out when he has all the money that he can need to do whatever he wants?
To rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. He's kicking out student protesters for having views he doesn't like. He wants CNN to be banned from the airwaves and so on. A lot of people saying, hang on, aren't you supposed to be Mr. Free Speech, Mr. President? Aren't you and Elon Musk the standard bearers of free speech? What happened to free speech? Is it only free speech when you like what you're hearing?
I love the way that you ask these questions, Piers. You're like my schizophrenic aunt. It was like Thanksgiving dinner after a box of wine. Because in 1 second, you're like, Anna, this scum should have been deported as a member of Hamas. This scum said that they need to be out. And he said the end of Western civilization is what they're here for, which, in fact, they did. And then in the same question, you're like, Trump's just deporting students because he doesn't like what they say. Right. You can't have it both ways, Piers. Is this guy a supporter of a terrorist group?
As somebody asking the questions, I can ask you all difficult questions phrased in different ways. The one thing you just said that really offended me, I would never drink wine out of a box, ever, ever.
Well, that's how we know Piers didn't go to... Piers, you must not have gone to college in America.
No, I did not. That, for me, crosses a massive red line. I'm a bottle man. Anyway, but Benny,
Brian and Benny are going to team up and gang up on Piers. Do we have
Benny? I think
the most ambitious
one thing
crossover event in American history.
The one thing you'll get buy-in from me on is that I will defend Franzia wine till my dying day.
Then you're going to lose me immediately. But Benny, back to slightly less serious matters, free speech.
Respect.
But on this issue of free speech, has the Trump administration been consistent? We might find this student, Mahmoud Khalil's views loathsome. There's no apparent, so far, hard evidence he has been pro-Hamas, and he disputes that. If it turns out he's not been actively pro-Hamas and we can't find actual words coming out of his mouth to show that, is it right that a green card holder in America should be thrown out of the country?
Listen, I'm not an expert on this case. I'm not a green card expert either. So I'm just going to go very quickly to the simple example of you're a guest here. All right. And if you go
I 100% agree with what Benny Johnson just said. Like, I was going to go take it a step further. Even if you're not a guest here, I think that if you're extremely, it becomes a slippery slope. But especially if you're an immigrant and you're just like, you're here because it's a better life than where you came from. And then you're going to do things that are actively anti-USA, like anti the United States of America over and over again, just for the sake of being anti-United States of America. Because let's be real, a lot of these college protesters who might not even be pro-Hamas, maybe they're just pro-Palestine, a lot of them are just anti-America, to be honest. They just take any and every opportunity that they can to showcase the fact that they hate America, and they know that America is allied with Israel, so they want to go after Palestine. They want to go after Israel's, enemy, because they know it makes them seem like they're anti-America. Like that is honestly why most of these college students are doing it, because they just want to seem edgy. They just want to hate America. Same thing, it's basically every single protest comes down to that, and I'm not some fan of Ben Shapiro's favorite country over there. I don't think that they're a good ally at all. I think they just siphon money and take our tax dollars and just go commit war crimes with them. But I also am not on the side of people who just hate America and take any single opportunity that they can to explain to us how much they hate America. I also think that's really, really lame. And if you're here as a guest, you should get kicked out if you're doing that.
To another country, and Americans go and travel abroad to tons of countries. Every country on earth right now has an American traveling abroad. If that American decided to support a terrorist faction or behave in a way that was criminal and illegal, right, which is what was happening when you were barricading and burning down and harming students and threatening students, then expect to be kicked out of that country. It's pretty logical, right? And I don't think that free speech has anything to do with it. And as you stated, free speech applies to American citizens, either native born or naturalized. That the Constitution applies to us, not to guests here. So It's the same thing as the criminal alien argument.
All right.
You don't get the same rights if you are a guest here especially if you came here illegally, right?
Although, funny enough,
I got to 100% agree, and I would expect that Brian Tyler Cohen 100% disagrees. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's a pretty common sense take. I think it's a pretty reasonable take, and you can see that Ana Kasparian doesn't like it very much, but I think Benny Johnson is completely in the right here. I'm very curious to see what you guys think in the comments, though. Do you think this is in violation of freedom of speech to kick someone out who's here as a guest, but it does have a green card, and it says something that's extremely anti-America, possibly pro-Hamas, whatever the case is? Curious to see what you guys think in the comments. It's a pretty tricky situation, but I have to align with Benny Johnson here. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole Benny Johnson versus Ana Kasparian debate here live on Piers Morgan Uncensored.